Welcome to the Effortless English Show with the world's #1 English teacher, AJ Hogue, where AJ's more than 40 million students worldwide finally learn English once and for all, without the boring textbooks, classrooms, and grammar drills. Here's AJ with a quick piece to help you learn to speak fluent English effortlessly.
Hi, I'm AJ Hogue, the author of Effortless English. Learn to speak English like a native. Go to effortlessenglish.com. Enter your email for a free copy of my audiobook, effortlessenglish.com. A few years ago, I attended a Toastmasters meeting. Toastmasters is a group, an international group, for public speaking. And, well, I went and I went. It was in San Francisco, and I went to I went to the meeting. It was like in downtown San Francisco, and I just watched, and I watched, and different people, they got up and, they gave speeches, and, they gave speeches, and then at the end of, I noticed, at the end of the speeches, they did something. They, like one of the people, not the speaker, but one of the other members of Toastmasters gave them, they gave them like a, what do they call it? An count. And I was like, what's an count? And I realized what it was is they were like counting filler sounds and filler words. You probably noticed I was just doing it a lot, right? It's what I was just doing. Lots of the those are filler sounds. They're called fillers. Is probably the most common. Or those are two very common. They're not words, they're just sounds. Sometimes people also use words as fillers. So common filler words are, two words, phrase, like is a common one. You hear, like, and then I went to the meeting, like, and I sat like in the back, So, fillers. You can probably see just from my little very exaggerated talk just now, that fillers sound terrible. They sound horrible, right? They make you sound weak. They make you sound uncertain, like you don't know what you're saying really, like you're not sure. So they make you sound like you're not confident. When you use fillers a lot, you seem like you don't know what you're doing, what you're saying. You will look very weak, and you'll sound like a very, very bad speaker. Right? Because that communicates uncertainty. And uncertainty in a speaker equals weakness and boredom. Not a good speech. So, how do we deal with this? Because it's a common thing, especially when you're nervous. When you're nervous, it just seems to come out naturally. These filler sounds, right? You're nervous. You're trying to think of what to say. Because you're nervous, your brain's not working normally. Right, in a relaxed conversation, maybe you wouldn't say those sounds as much. Although some people, even in normal conversations, use these fillers a lot. Like, you know. And even in normal conversation, they make you sound weak and uncertain. So using them a lot in conversations is also not a good idea. So you'll naturally do it sometimes, okay? Don't be scared of doing it, just a little bit. Occasionally, you'll do that. I still do it sometimes too. We all do. That's okay. But it's the excessive amount of fillers that makes your speech sounds terrible. This is also, by the way, very, very, very bad for job interviews. People also do this in job interviews. Again, because they're nervous. So they get a question. Why should I hire you? And then what happens? Number one, they're nervous, right? Oh, I'm nervous. Oh my God. Number two, they're not. They need a minute to think. Or not quite a minute, but they need a little bit of time, a few seconds to think of their answer. And so while they're thinking, they feel like they need to say something. Or you feel like you need to say something, right? When you're thinking. So you make some noise. Like, to fill the space, to fill the time while you think of what to say. But it's obvious and it looks terrible, sounds terrible, makes you look weak. This can be a very, very difficult habit to break. Very tough to break. Because a lot of people who do this, they don't even realize they're doing it so much. Only if they watch a recording or listen to a recording of themselves, then they realize, maybe then you realize, oh my God, I'm saying that all the time, right? If you record yourself making a speech, especially if you're doing a real speech, standing in front of people, you might catch yourself making those filler sounds and words a lot. And you're probably doing it in job interviews too, which is really bad also. So we understand it's bad. It's obvious it's bad. You could hear that just now. How to break that habit? How do you do that? Well, the Toastmasters Approach is one way, the Toastmasters Club. So what they do is they try to pay attention to it. So every time someone gives a speech, someone in the Toastmasters group, someone in the audience, counts every time they say or ah. And for a 3-minute speech, 5-minute speech, it might be 20 times, 30 times. It can be a lot. So I understand why they're doing that, but I really, really, really hate that technique. I think it's a bad technique. It will not help you so much. Why not? Here's the problem. When we focus on something a lot, we usually make it stronger. I'm talking about psychology, something inside of us. So if you focus on something you don't like, the problem is you're giving it energy. You're giving it more energy. And therefore, you can actually make the habit stronger. So the more you keep focusing on filler words, what happens is you think about it all the time. And that actually can make it worse. You'll actually do it more. So then what happens is you give a speech and you're thinking, okay, no ums, no ahs, but then that makes you even more nervous. So then you still do it a lot. You still say many times. And then maybe someone tells you, you said 25 times. And then you get mad at yourself. You get frustrated with yourself. Oh, God, I'm still doing it. And then you get kind of frustrated, which makes you, again, a little more nervous, more emotional, which means next time you speak, you're still likely to use a lot of filler words. And it's this kind of downward spiral. Focusing on the negative is not a good technique. I don't like it. And I think Toastmasters shouldn't do it. I think it's a very bad way to do it. It will take a long time to correct that habit if you try that technique. So don't use the Toastmasters technique. It's a bad technique. What's a better way? How do you eliminate these filler words that make you sound so terrible? Well, in general, in psychology, when we want to change something, instead of focusing on the negative, what we don't want, that's not good, you want to focus on the positive, a positive behavior that you do want. So, how or what should you replace the filler words with? Instead of filler words, what should you do? What's the best replacement? What's the thing you actually want to do instead? Think about it. I'm doing it right now. Silence. A silent pause is much more effective. It's okay to think. You're going to think. See, some people, they try to just talk. One reason people, when they're nervous, when they give a speech, one reason they talk so fast is that they're afraid to stop, okay? They're afraid to pause. They're afraid if they pause, they'll forget everything. They're afraid if they pause, they'll use filler words too much. They're afraid if they pause, they'll look bad. But the truth is, silence is powerful. You see, just a long, silent pause is powerful. It's strong. That's weak. That sounds weak. Trying to fill every space with a noise or a word, that's weak. It sounds weak. But just allowing silence, a nice long pause sometimes, can be powerful. It sounds much, much better. Most importantly, it's strong, especially when you hold eye contact. Now, if you look down and put your shoulders over and you're silent, that's not so strong. But as long as you stay standing up straight, keep looking at the audience, or if you're in a job interview, just look at the interviewer and be silent while you think. They say, "Why should I hire you?" And you need to think a little bit. So don't say anything. Just look at them and go, "Well, the reason you should hire me is because," and then you just keep talking, right? You see, that's strong. That long pause is fine. It shows confidence. And so instead of focusing on the ums, and counting them, no. Focus on silent pauses. That's the positive thing you want. Silent pauses. Anytime you need to think, silent pause. When you're changing a topic, a nice long silent pause is great. Sometimes, I had to practice this a lot, actually. I'm still practicing it, to be honest. Sometimes in my shows, I'll change topics. So I'll be telling a story, then I need to change to a different topic, like Twitter questions. And that's actually kind of difficult to do sometimes. And I used to just talk. I would finish my story, and then that's the end of the story. And then I would start doing fillers. Because I wasn't quite sure how to change the subject, right? To go from the story to Twitter. They're totally different. They're not connected. And then I had this guy who was actually coaching me, helping me, named Larry Gifford, really great guy. And he said, "AJ, just be silent. Just give a nice long silent pause and go to the next topic." So I would say, "Okay, and that's the end of the story. Now time for Twitter questions." See, it sounds good, doesn't it? It sounds fine. That's a nice, strong transition. You just boom, long pause with eye contact. And now the next subject. If you listen to radio, talk radio, the professionals, like the guys that get paid good money in talk radio, they do this. You're going to hear, they don't go, You will not hear them doing that. They just pause. Silent pauses. Very effective. Another use of silent pauses is for drama. It's for emotion, to get attention. See, sometimes, let's say you got a big room of people. You're talking. And you notice, They're not paying attention to me, right? You're maybe losing the audience a little bit. People are distracted a little bit. Well, one technique would be to get louder or to do some big movements, make a big change, and get their attention. That works sometimes. But another technique is just to stop talking, dead silence. So people are kind of losing, their focus. They're not paying attention so much, and you just stop. And after a little bit of time, people will notice you're not speaking. And even people, they're looking at their phones or they're looking down, or everyone will start looking back up at the stage. Notice, like, what's happening? He's not talking anymore. She's not talking anymore. And they'll suddenly wonder what's coming next, right? Because after a long pause, you get everyone's attention, then you deliver some good information. So that's another use of the long pause. So silent pauses, that's the positive behavior. Focus on the positive. Don't count the ahs and the ums. It'll make you crazy trying to count that stuff. And in the middle of speaking, it's too hard to try to catch that. Instead, focus on the positive behavior that you want. Silent pauses, silent pauses, silent pauses. Just keep that in your mind. That's the positive behavior you want. That's your positive goal. Just like that book, The Secret. Focus on what you want. And you will improve much, much faster by focusing on the positive. Silent pauses are very, very powerful in public speaking. Use them and use them well. Practice them. I'm AJ Hogue, the author of Effortless English. Join one of my English courses at effortlessenglishclub.com. effortlessenglishclub.com.